All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Marlins series, as well as the latest news and rumors in New York Mets land. But before we do that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that will be now recorded live after every series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on your those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the chat, right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not. We're just going to be starring them throughout the show and try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for my co-host right here, Frank's instant post-game reactions after every regular season game. Those are titled the Mets Frankly Postgame. And for our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all of your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 125 of our show. And let's just say the Mets did end this homestand on kind of a sour note. It was not a great way to end things. To be honest, they have been winning games. It's been record-wise looking okay, but they haven't really been playing great baseball. And there are some things that are very concerning that continue to be the trend. They have already played 12 games already. And throughout those 12 games, we're starting to see a noticeable trend with a lot of things of weaknesses and strengths, obviously. No real reason to panic on April 10th right now, 7:05 p.m. But there is things that need to be cleaned up. Hopefully things regress to the means and, we figure out the identity of this team sooner rather than later. But, there have been things of concern to look at it as, well, 8 wins, but a tough 8 wins. So, Frank, you are here as well. Another series has come and gone. We're 12 games in.
Like you said, it has been hard fought, so to speak. These kind of pitcher duels, these 2-0s, these 3-2s. It has been just like kind of on the edge of your seat as you're like, what's going to happen here? Mets are putting guys on, they're not scoring. Mets are getting guys on, they're not scoring. Mets might be getting no hit. Mets might be getting 10 runs. I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes as fans. You just kind of never really know what you're going to get on a given day. But like you said, there are some things that are consistent, some things that are consistently good, but also some things that are consistently not good, which we're going to get to. But, right now, it's more so just kind of stick with what you got. Like you said, the record is good, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Not the greatest of competition, but, the way baseball works is like you got to play who's on the schedule. Like you've got to, just because it looks like it's an easy win doesn't always mean that it is easy win. I mean, almost anybody could beat anybody a lot of the time. So it's like, a lot of times you're like, oh, well, it's just the Marlins. Well, like we've said, we've seen the Marlins beat us so many times, even when the Mets did have really good teams. So when you play these teams, you've got to take advantage. And for the most part, they have. I mean, could they have won all of them? Sure, but, they could have lost more of them too. So I think the thing is that, like, you won both Marlins series. You swept the Blue Jays. Like, for the most part, you've taken care of business. I am very fascinated by the next series because the Athletics, who, like, maybe people didn't think of highly at the beginning of the season, they've shown some stuff, and I have found it interesting that we're going to get into like this, but like the Mets offense just being kind of inconsistent, and I've talked about it being built on the home run ball, yet we haven't really seen that yet. And some of it is probably the weather. I mean, the wind has been crazy, been super cold, so that could be a factor, but they've talked about this new ballpark the Athletics are in Sacramento. It's playing like a minor league park. It's almost playing like Coors Field. So I'm hoping that maybe this trip to Sacramento will kind of get these guys going a little bit, maybe help their confidence and just kind of get them to be where they're supposed to be as far as the power department.
Yeah, obviously it's more just about the offense being consistent. And, there was a lot of things that I saw from this series specifically of just this typical Mets roller coaster of inconsistent offense of level 0 to 100. It just really, it's pretty much the same stuff that we continue to talk about with the situational hitting, things like that. But I mean, as for some of you guys in the chat here, a lot of people are bringing in their opinions about tons of things that we have line up for today. But Game for War is saying they're winning, but all cylinders are not running on full. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the main reason as to why a lot of us are kind of nail biting on, 9 innings. And, it can be a little bit, frustrating in a way because when you're playing baseball, marginal baseball like this, and, a lot of things aren't a guarantee, I think at some point you're going to have to, evaluate something of, I don't know if it's, lineup construction or it's who should be playing over who. But, right now, I think there's other factors that give us somewhat of hope because, again, it is a long season. Things can pick up. We're definitely in a better spot than we were 12 games in last year. So it's not like, we were starting off 11 games under 500 in May. Right now, they're at the 8-4 mark right now. They've had some good games. They've had some really brutal games towards the end. But we always do say that, good teams find a way to win, and they have been doing that in 8 out of the 12 games. So it's not like, this team is completely awful, but we're just saying it's like the type of baseball that they're playing. It's not going to sustain throughout 162 games where you're like, okay, this team, like this isn't World Series, this isn't contender level baseball that they are playing. And I will say one thing, even though, a lot of people are talking about some of the topics, and we all know what the major topic that we will get into, of course, in the chat here. But again, D coming in here saying, let's go Mets. Ricardo is here. We've got Daniel as well. Stanley in the chat as well. Great to see you guys in here. Guys, make sure to hit the like button if you have not already, and subscribe. We don't say that enough. And like this is a really good point with Explosive saying, we can't judge this offense until Alvey and McNeil come back. I mean, it's a fair assessment, of course, because, again, even though Alvarez has not had so much of success and McNeil has struggled recently, they're more competitive hitters than some of the guys that we are seeing from the bottom part of this lineup. I would say that the top 3 in this lineup that has been regularly top 3 for all 12 of these games, they've been productive. They haven't been world beaters. They haven't been what we've been expecting from day one at their very best. But, maybe once the weather gets a little bit warmer, like you said, with the Sacramento trip coming up, maybe that starts to kick some stuff into gear. And, they get into some kind of a rhythm because we know that there's tons of stuff there. That they do need to apply. Excuse me, I just wanted to star that. Excuse me. But again, we'll see. It's not just one specific person hitting, but again, it's really at this point, there's things that do need to be talked about specifically with this team. And we will get into some things that we were noticing throughout these games. And then, of course, going forward. Brad saying that the offense will click this weekend. I surely hope so. And they have a lot of chances to do so. So we will see. And we will get into every topic that everybody wants to talk about in a little bit. But first, we got to recap these games that we saw on the field and not just everything as a whole. So let's get into this Mets versus Marlins series. Now, of course, the Mets were playing the back end of a 6-game homestand. Kodai Senga would make his second start of the year and toss 5 scoreless innings with 5 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts on 77 pitches, and would be pulled from the game due to the expected pitch limit. Danny Young would rebound from his rough start to the year, tossing a scoreless inning, working around a leadoff infield hit and a walk. Jose Butto would toss a scoreless 7th and 8th inning with 2 strikeouts, and after a leadoff bunt single by Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto would open up the scoring with an RBI double to make it 1-0 Mets. Mark Vientos would be pinch ran for after a leadoff walk in the 8th, and Jose Siri would swipe second, moving into scoring position. Tyrone Taylor would add on an insurance run with an RBI single to make it 2-0 Mets. The Mets would get multi-hit games from Soto, Alonso, including a 3-hit game for Lindor that would notch him his 1,500th career hit. And once again, despite the Mets going 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, it was enough to get the job done, as Ryan Stanek would retire the fish in order on a 9-pitch 1-2-3 inning in the 9th to secure the win 2-0. Game 2, this was a wild day of 25-mile-per-hour winds, so plenty of craziness was endured. Clay Holmes made his first start at Citi Field. It started off a bit rough, but he settled in, getting past the 5th inning for the first time this season, pitching better than his line says, with a lot of defensive miscues behind him, extending the inning, but getting 10 strikeouts. But after surrendering a 1-out walk followed by a double, his day would end after 5 1/3 innings of work. And on the offensive side, Francisco Lindor would get the Mets going right away in the first with a leadoff home run, down 2-0, his first home run of the season to cut the lead in half. After a 2-out single by Juan Soto, Pete Alonso would pop one up to right field, and the insane winds would take it to no man's land, as Soto would come all the way around to score to tie the game up at 2. Brandon Nimmo would give the Mets the lead in the 5th with a 2-run double with the bases loaded to make it 4-2 Mets. Starling Marte would follow that up, driving in 2 more on a soft line drive to right field to make it 6-2. The game would get a bit scary for the Mets, as Huascar Braziman would come in to relieve Clay Holmes and surrender the first home run allowed by the Mets bullpen this year to Derek Hill to make it a 1-run game, but the Mets would respond in the bottom of the inning after the Marlins intentionally walked Juan Soto to get to Pete Alonso. Very odd choice. And then they play the infield in like even bigger morons, and Alonso would make them pay, blasting a bases clearing double to left center, his 15th RBI in just 11 games into the season to make it 9-5 Mets. Francisco Lindor would drive in his second run of the game on a sacrifice fly in the 7th to score Acuna to make it 10-5. The Mets would get multi-hit games from Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Starling Marte, and Hayden Sanger, getting 38 batters to the plate, totaling 13 hits and 4 walks, and the bullpen would do its job from there. AJ Minter would get the last 2 outs in the 7th. Danny Young would toss a scoreless 8th, and Reed Garrett would toss a 1-2-3 9th to secure the Mets' 3rd consecutive series win in Game 2, 10-5. Game 3, Tylor Megill made his 3rd start of the year and struggled with his command all day, and would be knocked out of the game in the 5th, fueled by a costly throwing error by Brett Baty at second base, and the Marlins would take a 1-0 lead on a RBI single by Matt Mervis. The Mets would hand the ball to Max Kranick, and another defensive miscue, this time by Brandon Nimmo in left field, allowed the second base runner allowed with Megill on the mound to score to close the book on Megill. 4+ innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 unearned runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts on 90 pitches. The Mets would completely fall asleep the Mets offense would completely fall asleep as their only hits would be singles from Francisco Lindor to break up Max Mayer's no-hit bid in the 6th, and Pete Alonso would lead off the 7th with a single as well. Max Kranick would get 6 outs in relief in total. Ryan Stanek and Huascar Braziman would each toss scoreless inning to keep the Mets in the game, but Edwin Diaz would completely implode in the 9th, walking 2 batters and surrendering an RBI single to Jonah Bride to make it 3-0 Miami, and then a 2-run homer to Matt Mervis to make it 5-0 to put the game out of reach and snap the Mets' 6-game win streak in the series finale. The Mets currently sit at 8-4 on the year, finishing 5-1 in their first homestand of the 2025 regular season. So lots happen in this series. Usually a lot happens when you play the Marlins because there's a lot of hectic, crazy stuff, a lot of stressful stuff. That's basically just the notion of the Mets playing the Marlins. That's basically just been how it is. There's plenty of takeaways. One game was very good results. One game was okay results. The other one was just a complete snooze fest, that being the series finale. Plenty to break down, some to like, some to dislike. Frank, I will go to you, putting all of your frankly recaps all together. What a series. What a series, as it always is against Miami.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because that second game of the series was supposed to be a 7:00 game that got moved to 4:00 because there was rain expected and ended up being a nice clear skies. But it was just like I said, a lot of weirdness going on. The weather definitely played a factor, especially in the beginning of the series. I mean, you had those fly balls that cost Clay Holmes a little bit. It actually helped the Mets in some areas. So I mean, that was pretty interesting to see. I think one of the takeaways I have, even though like when you look at the stat lines and you're like, oh, well, the guy's hitting 119, I felt like Vientos looked a lot better in this series. I thought that was a big key for me. I mean, he did have the one game where he drew like 3 walks, I believe it was. And then the 0-4 he hit the ball pretty hard, and there was a diving catch in left field by Miami. And they made some really nice catches in this game. I mean, you had the one in center field in game 2. The Mets were up by a ton already. But then obviously the last one to end the finale where P. Alonso to dead center, and Myers, I mean, he just goes literally face first into the wall to make the play to end it. So that was pretty interesting too, to see the Marlins make some plays out there where you said I'm not making plays. But for Baty, the error that he had, that was a big one, because there's a few ways you could go about that. It's like he makes the mistake of throwing it offline, but also he could have went to first base. So that's the other thing too, is that like if you're gonna make a bad decision, at least make the play. And it's especially difficult to see the play being successful when you are someone who doesn't normally play that position. So, I mean, that's the thing too, is that like, it's hard to make this hero play when it's not your natural position. So just that was very interesting to begin with. And I saw someone in the chat mention, why did the Mets use this particular lineup for the last game, considering how it went? And they said on the broadcast, you know what, after the Mets had scored 10 runs at 13 hits, they're like, oh, maybe we found something. Let's just kind of go with it again. Because right now, for a few of the positions, they're in a situation where they're platooning a lot of this stuff. With DH, Marte goes some days, Winker goes some days. In center field, some days it's Taylor, some days it's Siri. And then obviously at second base has been a big-time platoon. So they're just trying to figure out the right combination. They haven't found it quite yet, because a lot of these guys, not the DH position, but the other ones, they're in utility. They're in platoon for a reason, because they're not good enough as standalone players. Because if they were just playing so well, you wouldn't need to have anyone else start. Like that would be your guy. But because no one has been lights out, they've had to just kind of see if anyone could come through, and it hasn't happened. So I think what it comes down to is that right now, I would just, if I know nobody's going to hit for me, you might as well put the defenders out there, because it's one thing that you're not getting any offense, but if you're going to be hurt defensively too, well, that's really frustrating, because the pitching has been awesome for the most part. And even yesterday, it was still pretty good outside of the 9th inning. I think that with how good it's been, you don't want to give these teams extra opportunities, because even though it's been good, it can't be perfect. So if you're making mistakes behind them, it just makes everyone's job a lot more difficult, especially when you have volume concerns with the starting pitchers. Well, okay, you're giving extra outs, you're making them throw more pitches. Now they can't go deeper into the game. Now you have to use your bullpen more. So it's like these little things where you're like, oh, I'm just trying to make a play here. But there are some instances where that one extra base runner ends up going a long way. So at least for second base, if no one's going to be hitting, at least give the natural second baseman. In Acuna, at least the defense is slightly better. I mean, he's had his mishaps too, especially in Houston. We saw like some not great plays too with the arm release point. So we'll see what happens. You know, they have some guys rehabbing, which we'll get to, but it's just been kind of frustrating when you're seeing how top. We knew the lineup would be kind of top heavy, but not to
at least
this
to
extent.
to start this. At least to start.
I mean, but not to this absolute extreme it's been where it's like, you know, the first three guys are doing very good, and then the rest outside of Winker has just been horrible. I mean, really, really bad. I mean, the numbers are just not good when you look at all these guys where they're at right now. Again, early in the season, but a lot of these guys, I mean, you're talking about like negative OPS pluses for Taylor and Siri and Baty, and a lot of these guys, it's like, I mean, even Viento's OPS plus of 22. There's these numbers that are disgusting. I mean, just really, really bad. So we'll see how if these guys could kind of get it together. But right now, it has been, like you said, a little stressful when you need the pitching to be so good because of how inconsistent the offense has been.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm trying so hard not to flip out about the offense, only just because of, you know, there are factors of how the lineup is just not as deep. Like we've said, the lineup is not as deep as we expected it to be with two starters already, you know, to start the season on the injured list who we expected to get a lot of the playing time. The cold weather is definitely a factor. The cold weather was a factor in that game too, which really brings me to it. And people are going to hate me when I say this, but I kind of saw it coming in that in that final game where they were just going to completely disappear. Because again, you know, like you said, where they constructed the same lineup that they had from game 2 to game 3, where they thought they saw something like, again, there really wasn't anything besides Pete Alonso completely making the Marlins being idiots and being played. Like, there was a lot of bloop hits, a lot of things that don't happen regularly in Mets in games for efficient offense. So it's like, you know, the next day, one day they score 10 runs, the next they score 0. It makes sense. Why? Because you didn't have 25-mile-per-hour winds. Now, listen, it happened. The Mets played great baseball. But again, even with that, and another factor with that, it's also the Miami Marlins. You're not going to be playing them every single time. So, again, the Mets offense, I'm still seeing a lot of what we saw last year, where it's very streaky and very, 0 or 100. I don't think that it's as home run or bust as people are saying it is, but it's very indecisive. Let's say that. It's indecisive. Let's just say that, where there's no initiative and you have a lot of guys from the top of the lineup just carrying a ridiculous amount of the load. And there's only so many times where the pitching can hold up this way, because again, yes, the bats can be affected by the cold weather, but we're also seeing the pitchers get affected by it too. You know, it's just at some point, I think at one point, we have to realize that some of the stuff that they're doing is not going to sustain throughout a 162 game season. Like, yes, we're getting results and we're seeing this, and the record is 8-4. I'm pretty sure Matt and Evan from the Mets Central podcast, they're also Rangers fans. People were saying that about the Rangers too when they started off 12-1 or 12-4-1. And look where they're at right now if you're a hockey fan. So it's like the record doesn't speak for itself every single time, especially when you have 162 games to be played. So those 10 runs that they did score, that's not going to happen every single time. And then it showed you the next day where it's like they didn't show up. Because, like, again, you take it, whatever, that's great. But like the Pete Alonso RBI that you got, what was it, to tie the game? The wind like it's making the ball twirl and everything. You know, things are dropping that you don't expect. A lot of catches are being made. Like and yes, I will say there are a lot of hitters in this Mets lineup who are hitting the ball hard, giving it good quality contact, and are due when the weather gets warmer. But I'm just saying, together as an offense, the Marte 2-run single, little, like, again, it's like, it wasn't going to be something that it's like, oh, it happened this time. It's going to happen every single time. And that's the thing. And that's why some stats that people use are not predictive and it's hard to judge. But again, when it comes to, you know, the overall approach at the plate, there still is just things that I'm seeing that just look like it's just holding them back in that way. Like just the constant staring at 2 strikes with the bases empty, swinging first pitch with runners on base, just, you know, not taking advantage of the speed on the base pad. Like there's things that they're not doing that I feel like, you know, they should continue to do and be a little bit more aggressive in that way. And listen, it's been 12 games. And, you know, this is another factor that I do want to bring in because Francisco Lindor in this homestand, despite the cold weather, which I think we've seen him struggle in a lot since he's been a Met, has looked good. So again, the top of the lineup, Lindor, Soto hasn't been amazing. I know everybody's ready to cut his head off because he grounded into a double play, and that means he's just going to do it for the rest of his career. But again, Soto has been productive individually, not really with the team winning because he hasn't been great with runners in scoring position. But if you're going to worry about Juan Soto with runners in scoring position, it's going to be a very short worry. Let me just say that. And then Pete's been fantastic. Nimmo's had a few decent hits, but he has not been himself. Vientos, it looked like he was coming along in this in this series. It looks like he was getting more competitive ABs. And he's slowly starting to get a little bit better. Then past that, obviously, Jesse Winker gives you what he can give you. Starling Marte's there. And then there's the bottom part of the lineup where the best hitter in the bottom part of the lineup is Hayden Sanger right now, because Hayden Sanger has actually put together some quality ABs as compared to some of the guys in this lineup. And it's very, you know, whatever. And listen, you know, Matt saying, you know, if a 846 OPS is considered a slow start for Soto, then I think that he will be fine. And then that's the thing. You know, Ricardo's saying at some point the $765 million man can start hitting some really solid line drives. Yes. And again, I think that you're going to start to see a little bit of a difference in the hitting environment when they go to Sacramento. But you know, it's just a lot of, I don't know. It's just a lot of, you know, leaving a lot of things on the table, like how we talk about it, just leaving a lot of potential damage on the table. And I understand it's cold as all hell out there right now. And it's really hard because the offense comes at the premium. But when it comes to, you know, a lot of processes of scoring runs, there's been a lot of pulling teeth, you know, giving out free outs, giving away, you know, free uncompetitive ABs. And a lot of it comes from the bottom part of the lineup. But you can't just have 3 hitters in a row being competitive. And then the rest of the lineup, it's like, oh, crapshoot, close your eyes. Maybe they'll draw a walk or something. I mean, you got to have something better than that. I mean, from the offensive standpoint, I'm not freaking out about it, but there has been a lot of like, okay, what the hell are we doing here? This should be a little bit more easier compared to some of the previous lineups where we're just seeing the same thing where it's this 0 to 100 stuff.
I think more so what my frustration is like you said, like, oh, maybe we could draw a walk and like leaving stuff on the table. I just feel like if they're not assembled to hit home runs, then what are they assembled for? Because a lot of these guys are very station to station, and they're not. If they get on the bases, like let's say someone mentioned like with Baty, D-Mac, like he could have got a call and drawn a walk.
Yeah.
Baty is not even going to try to steal a base, so he just drew a walk to stand on first base. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the walks don't really help if you're not going to be. There's no bunting. I mean, when did the Mets ever sacrifice bunt? Especially these guys who are really struggling, like a Siri or a Baty. Like, drop a bunt down. I mean, if you have 0 runs, you are getting no hit through 5 innings. Do something. I mean, let's like we talk about, be more aggressive, a sense of urgency. Like when you have 10 runs and the wind's be helping you out, and the Marlins are intentionally walking guys and playing the infield in, being dummies, fine. But when it's not going your way, you got to make a way. You know, you can't just stick with the same stuff. It's that's where my frustration is, because I'm like, well, what do these guys actually do? You know, because there's a lot of these guys who I said they don't even attempt a stolen base. So it's frustrating if they're just out. Like for Vientos, like I said, even though I give him credit for having that good game, he drew 3 walks. With his lack of speed, it doesn't mean thing.
Sure.
Because the thing is that you're asking the team to string together hits. But for somebody like Vientos, you get a hit, he still isn't scoring. You need an extra base hit or multiple hits consecutively to get him home. So that's what I'm saying. Like if Vientos doesn't hit a home run or an extra base hit, him drawing a walk doesn't do much for me. So because again, Baty behind him is not going to bunt, or
it's the Vogelbach paradox.
It's just
basically
it's
what
pretty
we talk about. Yeah.
So I mean, that's my thing, is that I'm not saying that the Brewers are perfect, but they assemble a team that like makes sense. Like they would bunt, they will steal a lot of bases when they don't have the talent. But it's like the Mets are in a different situation where it's like, no, you have star players that you paid a ton of money for.
And you also have marginal pieces too. It's just you don't have enough that like the Brewers have or these other teams have. I mean, you have Tyrone Taylor. You have Jose Siri. You have, Francisco Lindor can even steal. I don't know if that's...
Like, I'm shocked that Siri hasn't tried to bunt for a hit yet with the kind of speed and like all-out style he has. Like,
I don't know.
Put it down.
You think he made contact with the ball?
He might have a better shot at it, because I mean it really seems to be a struggle for him. So I mean that's just my kind of thing, is that like I feel like if you're trying the one process throughout the game and it's just not going your way and the pitcher's on a roll, you got to try something. You got to
mix something up. Yeah.
So that's kind of where my frustration lied. Now, what happened in the 9th inning, would it have mattered? No. But like you said, it's more so just like the process. Is that like that's kind of where you want to see the results, because you can't rely on facing the Marlins often and the wind being your friend and all the other things that were going on. I mean, you also, I don't forget, you had the catcher like going for a ball on the infield and he fell on his face. Then there was a ball hit right back to the pitcher. He overruns it. Like you said, that stuff is not going to happen, especially against the good teams. So
that's the thing.
That's
what I'm saying. It's like you can't just wait for things to come to you. Like you can't just wait for things to come. You have to take that initiative, because again, even when it comes to the overall power, or it comes from just overall quality of contact that you're hitting for, pitchers every single year, less and yet less, throw inside of the strike zone. They are always looking for chases. They're always looking to miss bats in that way. So you're not going to get many opportunities in the strike zone as to where, you're going to be able to, slap around these base hits or whatever. Because, at some point when you're staring at some of these pitches, and listen, if you're swinging first pitch, obviously you better hit it. Of course. But we were also seeing some swinging 3-0. Like why? Like, what are we doing that for? Like, it makes absolutely no sense to me as to where the thought process, I feel like it's either indecisive or it's just not thinking at all. And there's another factor that goes into that. But we don't have time to talk about that. Maybe eventually we will if the offense gets even worse. But there's an identity here that...
The most frustrating is the 0-2 down the middle. I mean, Marte and Baty have been the culprits of that. In the 2-strike counts, it's like, back in my day, like this is where the old man comes to me. Like there was a thing called...
You get benched.
There was a thing called like a 2-strike approach. And Soto does this. Like you'll see Soto, defensive hack, choke up on the bat.
Move in the batter's box. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's 2 strikes. You swing at anything close. You just try to make something happen, because if you're in 2 strikes and you're not swinging and it's not a 3-ball count, nothing good is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like if it's close, you could be out, especially with a lot of these umpires are, since ABS is not here yet. So I feel like, you want to see, like we said, see something, because down the middle, Like what do you what
Yeah.
more could you want? I mean, you would hope that like you're sitting middle, and if it's then you adjust, but you see down the middle and you don't do anything about it.
Yeah,
That's
that was
just
the
crazy.
the only rough AB I saw from this from this series, because like again he's not right, Vientos. Again, he has not been great, but at
I
least
think they might
he's
have given
progressing
him a,
a
green light
little bit
to try to get him going. They might be looking for a pitcher in
It's
the
fine.
crush just to kind of break the ice, maybe. But
Yeah.
I agree. But I think it's just because like they know what he's capable of, and the frustration has been very visible for him. Like I said, in my post,
Yeah.
we've seen him kind of throwing stuff in the dugout, seen him kind of
Yeah.
take the equipment off and like kind of throwing it into the ground. With Baty though, he doesn't seem
Yeah.
bothered at all. So
No.
everyone has a different way of processing adversity, but he just seems like
Yeah.
like, oh well, back to the dugout. Like, so
Yeah.
it's interesting.
And again, we'll get into Baty because we're going to talk about him a little bit earlier than I expected that we would, because it just keeps getting worse. So as far as Vientos, what we're talking about, and then I do want to talk a little bit about the pitching for a second in this series, but as far as Vientos, we barely see him lose his cool the way that he has so far this year, and it obviously seemed to be getting to him. But I do think that when it comes to the complacency of Vientos, I think he kind of snapped out of it very quick, and he looks to seem more determined to just continue and grinding out these ABs, because again, these adjustments that he has made at the major league level, they really paid off for him so far. And I think that when he goes through a slump like this, it all really just has to do with how does he bounce back from it? How does he continue on so it doesn't continue to get any worse? When he got that frustration out, what was it, in Miami, struggled a little bit in that Blue Jays series as well. But the thing about what I like about Vientos is that he slows things down. And he realizes that sometimes when things get a little bit out of hand, because we've seen him get overzealous with swings before. There's a lot of swing and miss to this guy's game, and that's the main reason as to why people talked about potential regression this year from him. It's possible with the amount of bad pitches that he was swinging at last year, even though he had such a great year. So when it comes to, everything that goes on, with Mark Vientos' hitting, I like that he's able to dial it back and he doesn't let everything get to him. And that's going to continue to pay off. And it seems like even with him struggling, slowly but surely, he's starting to get a little bit better of quality of contact. He's starting to work some full counts. He's starting to work some 3-ball counts. He also, to be honest, this year, right now, if you were to look at his percentiles, he's 67th% in chase rate. Like there's a lot of swing and miss. So as of right, there was a lot of swing and miss last year. There is improvements that we are seeing when it comes to the swing and miss. It just seems like he's late on some stuff. Like it just really does seem like he's late. I think that eventually he will get going. And like we've said, with this upcoming series in Sacramento of a complete bandbox of hitting that it seems like that ballpark has become, I think, if you were to look at the quality of contact that you're seeing from Mark Vientos throughout this season, you are seeing a little bit of an uptick over these past, 4 games. You're seeing a little bit of an uptick. So slowly but surely he will start to get going. I'm not worried about it. There's nothing that there's no factors or underlying factors that says, oh, this is a problem. He may have been a one-year wonder. No, I'm not seeing that whatsoever. Obviously he got into a little bit of a stretch where it just wasn't great for him. And we will see where it goes. Same thing goes for Nimmo as well. Nimmo, a lot of the underlying factors for him, I'm not worried about. And it really all just has to do with, how it continues to sustain. But we will see how they do that. But again, I think, in terms of the situational hitting, dialing in, we know that Nimmo has been very rare. Like, it's a rare occasion because usually he's really good with runners in scoring position. Mark Vientos was good with it last year. Of course, Baty we'll talk about in a second. But it's all really just about the situational hitting and putting it all together. And I feel like the approach, they have to, I'm not saying simplify it, but I'm just saying like there has to be somewhat of a thought process or some type of plan B if things are not working. Because again, even though the pitcher is not great third time around the order or second time around the order, I think there's adjustments, and there's guys like Max Mayer who can shell out some other weapons that he can go after. So it's not like he's going to throw a fastball every single time or throw a slider every single time. So again, it's all about adjustments to your adjustments. It is a chess game on how to move these waves of struggling offense to struggling pitching to struggling offense. Speaking of the pitching, I want to say I saw a lot of Mets fans kind of throwing Clay Holmes under the bus. I understand that it hasn't been pretty for him, and compared to, the results that we were seeing in spring training from him, this is a little bit different. I think we're in the right direction right now with Clay Holmes. It might take a little bit for him to get, some of his footing, but as for what he's been doing right now, we have had the defense screw him in every single one of these starts. And when you are adjusting to trying to be a starter and having to throw extra pitches, the sequencing can be messed up. Now, yes, the walks are an issue, and maybe there is a certain adjustment that he makes. Maybe he finds his Sean Manaea adjustment, whether it is an arm angle, whether it is throwing one pitch more than the other. He had those walk problems, and obviously different pitcher, Sean Manaea, way different pitcher, left-handed pitcher, lot different. But again, he is about figuring things out as of right now. But most of the balls that have been put in play, there's been some, not cooperation from the defense. And a lot of the balls that have been put in play have also been ground balls too. I'm pretty sure he's, like at the very top in ground ball rate. And listen, he doesn't throw as many 71st percentile. Yeah. So again, it seems like he's running into a little bit of hard luck as of right now. He just has to figure out how to throw strikes, and hopefully, he can do that consistently. And we will try to figure that out. But again, we saw what he can deliver, even though it was against a Marlins team that isn't that great. We saw what he can deliver, and he gave us 10 strikeouts. So those are the punch outs that we can just say, we know what he is capable of. He just needs to get into that rhythm. And again, there is plenty of other things that we can talk about. And speaking of other things that we can talk about, Kodai Senga, good start from him. I know, Frank, you were worried about you didn't like that he didn't go deeper into the game. I don't know. Listen, I'm not freaking out about it yet. I really am not. I just pull the plug whenever you need to pull the plug. To be honest, I understand that the bullpen has a huge, has had a huge workload in this. But I think that we have enough guys that can go long relief as to where a guy can go 4 innings and you don't have to panic. But Senga went 5. Don't push. Again, don't push it like that. I just would not push it in that way. And then also typical Tyler McGill start. I don't really think we need to go really into that as much. But as for some of you in the comments section, just basically wrapping up some stuff that we saw in this series, then we'll get into some of the specifics. Matt saying Clay was fine apart from those first 2 innings. He settled down after, and you really started to see the swing and miss stuff. I haven't liked his sinker so far this year. Yeah, I don't think he's using it as much, which is so odd because he's getting a lot of shitty contact.
Yeah. So I have Clay from last year pulled up. last year he was 100th percentile in ground ball rate, and the sinker was at a 56% usage. But that's also because he was only throwing 3 pitches, whereas this year he's now throwing 6 pitches, and the sinker usage is down to 31%. So, I mean, that's the other thing too. He's really trying to incorporate like that changeup. I think he's trying to like tunnel it with the sinker, as far as like, you know, they're both trying to pound it into the right-handers. And it seems like it's probably still part of like the adjustment period as far as becoming a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you're and I feel like it's especially important that I feel like it would almost be automatic, if it was me, to start Acuna when Clay Holmes is pitching, because if you know the ball's gonna be on the ground a lot, have your experienced infielders out there. You know, that's how I would.
Frank, that's been my deal since the very beginning here.
But the walks has obviously been the big one, and still I feel like that's still trying to get the release point for the pitches. And listen, maybe Clay Holmes is one of these guys where in spring training and it's 70 degrees and your pitches are all doing what they want them to do. Now you move to the cold, and now they're not doing what they want to. I know he wasn't good in Houston opening day either, but I feel like this might still be some of that, you know, getting used to being a starter, because, you know, the Arsenal has switched. He's added 3 new weapons in just the span of an off season. Like, he's really trying to become a new pitcher in a certain sense. So that's not easy to do right away. And the velocity is down too. I don't know if that's weather, or maybe trying to dial it back to preserve energy to work deeper into games. So, you know, there's a lot of factors that happen when you are doing an experiment like this.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that it's been fine for the beginning of the season where workloads are low. Again, I'm not looking to completely push things to the limit at the beginning of the season. I'm all really just looking at, you know, how this process comes with the identity of the team. And, you know, obviously the offense. I really can't talk about the pitching that much, like, at all. Besides one person who was a absolute mess yesterday. We all know who I'm talking about. But I think when it comes to just the thought of Clay Holmes being a starter, there are going to be that growing pains look of it, because, again, it's a very different workload that he's pushing up. And again, like the where he was doing in spring, like you said, I don't want to say like, oh, it's just the weather doing that, but I'm just saying it's like there's factors here as to where he's not giving up big contact. He is, avoiding a lot. There, he was getting a lot more chases than he was in those first 2 starts compared to the second game of the series that he started. So there's adjustment, there's sequence that he has to go through, and I'm not really going after him, especially with the offense being the way that it is right now. It's not really something that I'm going to go after. The strikeout numbers are up, the walks are up, but it doesn't seem like he's due to be even worse. As long as he just keeps doing what he's doing and figures out the best sequence for himself, I think that he is going to be fine. But speaking of, you know, things that are not fine, I do want to talk about the main attraction of Brutal that has been for the first 12 games, not to mention his entire career up here. I do want to get into him, but speaking of some other young guys, I'm pretty sure somebody asked about Drew Gilbert early on in our chat. I do want to bring this up. He did homer in his first AB for Port St. Lucie. He is rehabbing there, and then he will be in AAA and try to get his feet wet there. So that's good to see that he's healthy. They've been slowing some stuff down with him as well. A lot of rehabs going on in Port St. Lucie. Obviously, with our second baseman who was expected. And we also had a double from Drew Gilbert in his second AB. So he's 2 for 2. So it looks like he will be in Syracuse in no time. Anyways, speaking of somebody that does belong in Syracuse, great segue, right? Let's talk about Brett Baty. Now, we have been very vocal on here. A lot of people in our chat have been vocal. A lot of people on Twitter have been vocal. I think that I'm at the point where I don't know what to say anymore that will be not sounding like a broken record, because as to what we have seen, it just keeps getting worse. And I tell you the truth, I told Frank before we started the stream, I was like, I thought we would be talking about this towards the end of May. I thought that we would be talking about this, maybe a few days before Jeff McNeil comes back, or we'd be talking about this a little bit later. But from what we are seeing, this is some of the most brutal baseball I have seen a singular player play. And it's not even just the results of what we are seeing, because we all know he's 3 for 27, 3 for 28. It's just also from the underlying numbers. And I want to do a little bit more of a deep dive into this, of some of the underlying numbers we're seeing from Brett Baty. This is so concerning that some of the stuff we are seeing, like, even though there was things that he needed to improve throughout his entire career, this type of play, this type of hitting, defense aside, even though he's not playing a position he should be playing, when you look at it from what we are seeing right now, it's uncompetitive, and he doesn't even look rosterable at this point. You can't, like, he doesn't even look like he should be with this major league club. He looks nowhere near a major leaguer, nowhere near whatsoever. And this isn't a young guy. This is a 25-year-old. So as of right now, best way that I can describe this, brutal beyond repair. Now, as for what we're seeing in 2025, so far, like I said, 3 for 27, not a great start, not a great start results-wise. 11 strikeouts, has not drawn a single walk, has not driven in a single run, has not hit a home run, 1 extra base hit. He has a negative 28 weighted runs created plus. He has a 113 weighted on base average, which is on the same scale as weighted runs created plus. A negative 3 wins above replacement. And for his entire career, as Yankees legend says in here, a career negative 1.1 career wins above replacement. Not great. OPS plus of negative 25. Just not great. Now, if you were to look at the league percentiles of things that show and project some of his hitting tools going forward, there really isn't much promising. Now, as you can see, some of the stars that you see next to a few of these percentiles, there's about 4. You have pull rate, center rate, oppo rate. Those are the non-efficiency percentiles. Those are the percentiles that are just tendency. And they don't really say the full story, and they don't really contribute to the league average as compared to the league average. So obviously, pulling the ball does not do anything to his stats compared to other players in this league, because pulling the ball is different for everyone. Not to mention, you can pull ground balls on the ground. Ground balls on the ground. All ground balls are on the ground. You can pull ground balls. You can pull line drives. You can do all of that. So again, that doesn't really factor into much, but it really does show about the frequency that you are seeing. But again, as for the overall quality of contact that you're getting, overall hit probability, which is expected batting average, that's in the 3rd percentile at 158. Expected slugging is 195 in the 1st percentile, which is the league's worst. You are seeing 1st percentile xwOBA, which is quality of contact. So even though he is hitting the ball hard, and you are seeing 70th percentiles in hard hit rate and average exit velocity, like I said last episode, you are seeing him not hit the ball in a quality way for the sweet spot. And I talk about this all the time with Brett Baty. The barrel window's just not there whatsoever. And he's just not making swings that could, connect to the baseball to obviously give it into the barrel rate where he's not pitching into, to any power. Obviously, the whiff rate is in 9th percentile as well, 26th percentile in chase rate, just some awful swings. And also another piece, which is also the stat I like to call the Vogelbach stat, called strike and whiff rate, which is the combination of called strikes and whiff rate. It's also the best way how we calculate control and command. 29th percentile, which I think is even worse compared to what it is on there, because he was still looking at strikes. I'm pretty sure I can get an update on that. So again, as for what Brett Baty has been doing, like I said, beyond the results, because the results are terrible, but from what we are seeing in totality of the hitting tools, this is some of the worst hitting I have ever seen. 16 balls being put in play, some that he's not even making contact with. Frank, I will swing it over to you. We did see a report from Andy Martino because he wanted to say, and he loves to break, news that Mets fans don't want to hear, that the Mets are not close to optioning Brett Baty. So they're going to still continue to give him chances. But this is some of the most brutal baseball I think I've ever watched from a single player, and we have seen some really, really bad Mets players. Not even just from results, but we're just not seeing anything. No hard luck, no good luck, no anything from him. And it's starting to translate from this field. Let's just say that. Starting to translate there too. After the costly error he had yesterday. Just an awful performance from Brett Baty to start the season. What are your thoughts?
Awful. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It definitely has been an awful performance. It's been an awful watching experience. And like you said, I mean, we've seen some bad players. And I think to go one step further, is he the worst player we've ever seen? He's in the conversation this season, but it's definitely one of the most disappointing players we've seen this season because, like we say every year in spring training, we see that there is talent. Like with his prospect status, there was expectations. With where he was drafted, you thought he was going to be a solid player. He was supposed to be a good player. And every time he's in the major leagues, it just doesn't happen. And you would think that with the more opportunities he's got, as he's getting more major league experience, then maybe he'd be a little better. But at this current moment, this is the worst we've ever seen from him, and I don't think it's particularly close. He has not drawn a single walk this season. Like we said, he finally got into hitters counts in this Marlins series. That's embarrassment. That's almost impossible. We thought that Jose Siri would be someone who would have a tough time getting on base. He's drawn 3 walks this year. So, I mean, if Jose Siri has 3 walks and he swings at everything and can't hit anything, and you have 0, then you are really doing something wrong at the plate. And they're talking about it on the broadcast, but he's in between. He's defensive. He just doesn't look like he really knows what's going on there. And he's now taking these little late hacks, finally with 2 strikes, but like you said, it's just weak ground balls. The ground ball rate of over 60%. That's the worst because we thought it finally improved at one point. That's also a career worst, and he's had a ground ball problem. Yet this is the worst one. So it just has been very frustrating, especially considering that we said it before, but like we've seen him have good spring trainings before, and this was his best spring training by far. He made adjustments to the way he's hitting. He's supposed to be driving the ball, but those hitting adjustments that you make and trying to really guide the ball with your hands. It doesn't work if you don't hit the ball first. So I mean, he's having such a hard time just making, like you said, quality contact with the baseball. That whatever he's doing with his hands is not going to matter if he doesn't hit it first. And if you're in an 0-2 count and taking it down the middle, or taking strike 3 called constantly, like you said, a lot of Vogelback, a lot of strikes looking, the approach is just not good. So is that maybe a little bit of Eric Chavez? God forbid, right? I mean, you can't. It can't be his fault either. Like,
can't
it
be. He's a genius.
It can't be his fault.
Genius.
It can't. So it has to be just Brett Baty. So it's been very frustrating. We really wanted to see him do well. It'd be great if he did, because then you have someone that eventually maybe could be traded. But when we had Pat Ragazzo on, he said, "Listen, the Mets don't trade guys at low value." That value is getting lower and lower. So, I mean, the decision to hold him is not looking great right now. So, it just has been very frustrating. And we're hoping that, now he's 25. And again, like with more experience, maybe you get better. But the fact that he's getting worse, and this time, the playing time is pretty consistent. Like, you know, Acuna's getting starts, but Baty's getting majority of the starts.
Yeah.
And he would get more starts if he wasn't so bad. So, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
thing, too, is that, like, he would get consistent playing time if he just wasn't horrible at the plate. And now if, you know, he's going to be making mistakes in the field, which, I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, again, the guy was scouted. He was ranked as a pretty high prospect at the position of third base. He was supposed to be a third baseman. He's not supposed to play second. So it's just an unfortunate circumstance that he's there right now. And, you know, we were talking about, oh, well, you know, if Baty made these adjustments to spring training and he's actually really good, he's hitting these home runs, extra base hits, and McNeil stinks, well, maybe they could just stick with Baty. That's looking very out the window right now. So, I mean, that's refreshing. But, you know, I would give Acuna a little bit of a shot. Like we said, you know, hopefully he plays tomorrow. A lot of people saying Mets face a lefty tomorrow. Hopefully he does something, because I just don't know why you would hang on to it. Because it's, when you're at this level, you know, I mean, negative 25 OPS, hitting 111, not drawing walks, and if you're going to be bad in the field, and he doesn't have other tools. So he's not, and like we said, he's not really great at second base. Could you take Vientos out of the game, put him at third? You could, but Acuna does it better. He's not great in left field. He can't play short, and he can't pinch run for you. So it's like, well, why? And Martinez thought the Mets might hang on to him a little longer. Well, why would you? I mean, what else is it that he's going to provide? He doesn't.
Smiles.
I mean, to me, he doesn't profile as a good pinch hitter with the way he approaches at bats. So I wouldn't do that. And I feel that with his ground ball tendencies, I would be very afraid to pinch him with men on, because he gets into a double play and totally kills the rally. So I just don't really see the point. I know for right now they have to do it because of the McNeil injury, but I mean, once McNeil is ready to go and he's, you know, going to start his rehabs and everything like that, there's not really much of a reason to keep him. I mean, Acuna hasn't been good, but at least I consistently have quality defense and I have speed, and it gives me just a better option off the bench so someone could play multiple positions. At least I get that at the minimum. And like we said, we saw Acuna actually have more success in the major leagues in a less amount of time than Baty has. So you have that to fall back on. But right now, it just has been a really rough go for him. And I have to be honest with you, I noticed that, especially in this last game, he was just so bad that the fans are booing him more and more.
Yeah.
We know that's not going to make the situation better, especially on a younger player. So I feel like, you know, as you struggle this much and you continue to struggle, especially when you feel like you finally figured it out, there is the mental aspect where I don't see it getting better. I think he might be done. You know, as far as this time with the Mets, I think that it might be too much to overcome, where it's like once you're now in your head, you can't make it happen.
I mean, when you have a bunch of second base prospects on the way here, I mean, you know that, like, you know, that's going to be something that they're going to be looking at. And we all know that Brett Baty is not a regular second baseman. We know he's playing a brand new position. So this is his final chance. We know that it is. And whether, you know, from, you know, the looks of, you know, what David Stearns is saying about, you know, that the chances that he's going to get, like, at some point, someone's going to take the second base job. We don't know who it's going to be. You know, to be honest, from the production we're getting, Jeff McNeil can just exist and just get it, to be honest, and just play every day. From what I'm looking at from Acuna, it seems like he's getting a decent amount of appearances. He's had 21, but it doesn't look like he's starting back-to-back days. Like, it does not seem like that happened maybe once because Francisco Lindor had, what was it?
The paternity leave.
Yeah, the paternity leave. So, again, like, that was the only time that he played. And when he played those back-to-back games, he got a hit in both of them. And he also, I think, stole a base in one of them, too, I think. Yeah. He's stolen 2 bases, obviously. I just want to see, at this point, with what we've seen from Brett Baty, I'm sure he's going to get some playing time in this A's series, and it's a minor league ballpark, so maybe he will. Maybe he will do something because it'll feel like home to him. But the problem is this is what I meant by platooning Baty and Acuna, because they were just going to favor Baty to play second base because of his bat and everything and because of his pedigree, and they're just going to let the kid just rot on the bench. And even though they both have gotten the same amount of plate appearances, the everyday reps, especially from a guy like Acuna who needs to use all of his tools to be successful, at this point, you're having a rehab assignment start for Jeff McNeil. Obviously, maybe he'll be back in like a week, maybe a week or two or whatever. Can I just see 3 straight games where Acuna plays and starts all 9 innings? Can I just see that? Please? Just once. Please just show it to me. Because again, yes, it was a small sample size from what we saw from him in the majors last year. But he proved a hell of a lot more than what Brett Baty has done since 2022, which was his major league debut. So again, just try something else here, please, for the time being. Then figure it out whenever Jeff McNeil comes back. But please, just give Acuna the keys for just a few days. Please, we don't need to see, especially with how bad the bottom part of the lineup has been this year, we don't need it to be made even worse with the worst hitter on the team right now, technically, and for what he's proved in the major leagues. Like, enough already. And as for with Baty, I don't think they're going to completely let go yet, because it obviously has been just 12 games. But we know that if it does not continue soon, at some point they're going to have to move on here, because you can't just keep force feeding this for a 4th consecutive year. What is it? Fourth consecutive year now, where he has gotten a decent amount of playing time. I guess 3rd consecutive, because in 2022 he had a few cups of coffee. But he was the starting third baseman regularly. And then he couldn't come back last year because Vientos took his spot. And then, and then the way that they have to force feed him to us, he has to be shoved down our throats, is for him to play a position he has never played before. It's just, if you need so much to keep this guy around, there's no reason to have him around. There's just no reason. And he hasn't shown anything to deserve it. I asked you guys in the poll, 68% of you are saying that Brett Baty is a bust, saying yes. 13% of you are saying no. 19% of you are saying too early to tell. It's not the fact that he has had over 600 plate appearances. It's the fact that this guy has had multiple off seasons to get better. He's had multiple spring trainings where he has shown us promise, and it still just doesn't translate. It's fool's gold at this point. How many times are we going to do this? I don't know how many times we're going to force this out there until we say enough is enough. And at some point, they're going to have to make that decision, because they can say as much as they want, we think highly of Brett, and we still think highly of Brett, and we're high on him. We still believe in him. But if it's not coming, it's not going to be coming. And especially like we've said with this offense, the bottom part of the lineup is shit right now. It hasn't done anything. The best hitters out of this lineup is an injured interim starting catcher right now, and the 3rd string catcher, as it was expected to be, who was working at Whole Foods last year. I mean, this is pathetic. It just is. And I just don't see, anything. And that's the thing. Like Ricardo's saying, I like Baty a lot, but he is a bench player, nothing more. I don't think that's going to help either. I just don't think that's going to help, because him in any pinch hitting situation, which what he has been showing at the major leagues, where does he fit into that? It's just another situation where you're like, oh, well, Starling Marte can hit singles against lefties. It's just such a small window of things that he can do, but he's making league minimum. Starling Marte's making $20 million. So it's a different extreme. But again, I don't know how many times you can continue to do this before you call a spade at some point. He's not good. He isn't good. He hasn't been good at the major league level. And this is multiple years coming. This is also someone out of that big 4 that we've talked about, even though there has been injuries throughout. Baty, Alvarez, Vientos, Mauricio, that top 4 before the new regime came in. Baty was expected to be the most MLB ready by the time he came up, the most seasoned, because he was obviously brought into this organization when he was 19 years old. Did he fail 5th grade? I don't know. But who knows at this point? But also just mentally as well. I don't see it. I really don't see it. Yes, we saw the visible frustration of Mark Vientos, but like I said, he slows things down. And maybe it's just the fact that of this stuff that there's been talking about, and this is another piece of stuff that maybe you can add in on too. I don't know if they're just really like hesitant to give the keys to Acuna because of all this stuff about him being bored. But like, it's got to be better than this. It has to be. It really has to be better than this.
I'm wondering, this is the only thing I could think of, is maybe because, like you said, like this is Brett Baty's like last chance,
Yeah.
is that they're giving as much time to know for sure before they move on that like, no, he just is not going to work out here. Whereas Acuna, they're like, you know what, still young, barely played, like he still has time to get better. Like he's like, I mean, what is it? Baty's got a couple years on him. So at least we could feel like a little more time. Whereas with Baty, it's like you need to find out right now because you've given him plenty of opportunities, not worked out. This is a golden opportunity for him. Like if everyone was healthy, he would not be getting to play this much. So like this is opportunity that he shouldn't even gotten in the first place. Yet he does have it, and he's still not playing well. So I like you said, I don't really know what else there is to see. And I feel like with this bench, it is really redundant already. I just don't feel like he's a great fit for it. I saw some people mentioning like the idea of a third catcher. I would kind of prefer a third catcher more than I would Brett Baty, just because it's like you have Siri and Taylor, who are almost the same player. Then it's like you have two DHs in Winker and Marte. So why you have two DHs is still weird to me. So then like why would you have Baty too? I just feel like the bench, it just really shrinks as far as like the amount of different things it could do. So I don't think that's a good idea either.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that people are going a little bit too far with this when it comes to, when it comes to a lot of, you know, situations of, you know, the revisionist history and saying, oh, we should have brought Iglesias back with this whole thing. I don't think we all really expected Jeff McNeil to get hurt. I mean, he's been banged up a lot recently, but again, I don't think we expected this situation. I also don't think we expected Nick Madrigal to just drop dead, like completely, even though he's had an injury history too.
Might have been a blessing in disguise because I wasn't looking forward to watching him. So it might have. It might have a little.
I don't know. Out of how, I mean, I've always talked about him positively as a player, so I was very excited.
We already got one infield that can't hit. Why would we want another? Because then think about it. It's like if Baty was playing Madrigal, get the starts, and he's maybe just as bad. Like it would.
Yeah.
No, that would have been brutal.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say anymore in regards to this. With Baty, you know, I said it from the very beginning when he was doing well in spring training. I'm not there. I just can't. From what I've seen at the major league level, I just can't. I can't buy into it. And once again, you know, I got so much shit for that, saying that I'm rooting against him and I want him to fail. This is what you're seeing in front of you. Like, for what you have seen for him from the major leagues. I understand. If you want to root for him, go ahead. I want him to succeed too. I want everybody to succeed and be fantastic on this team. But that's just not reality. Some guys make it, some guys don't. Brett Baty look like he's not going to make it. And it doesn't look like there's, again, like we've said, with Mark Vientos before, with the whole situation with him, I mean, he bounces back. Like he finds a way to slow things down for him. When it comes to Baty, you're just seeing, oh, well, got to go to work again. Like it just continues. He just lets it get to him. And it seems like he has, because it doesn't seem like there's anything else. And obviously it's not going to get any better because, again, of the crowd just completely booing him, which, again, I understand the frustration of the crowd booing him. I don't boo my own players. That's not something that I prefer to do. But again, there was
just
expectation.
Rip him on a
with
podcast
this.
instead.
Yeah, just put exactly. Rip him on a podcast instead. But like, again, to the Mets fans out there, who hate my guts, because there are plenty of Mets fans that hate my guts. I'm pretty sure my co-host hates my guts at some points. But again, when it comes to, the reality of the situation here is, I'm not saying this just to brutally insult the guy. I'm not saying this to go after him completely as a person. I don't know him as a person. I don't know who he is. He doesn't know me. I'm talking about this generally from his performance. That's it. And from what we have seen from this performance, from how sarcastic I am and satirical I can be, maybe I push some buttons. Maybe I go a little bit extreme there. I get it. It's just my humor. If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's whatever. I can be an asshole. I get it. But again, in reality, no trolling or anything. What we've seen from Brett Baty in the major leagues, nothing. Nothing has been promising. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And let's not forget, if you were on here, if you've watched our show for a long time, I have given credit to Brett Baty before. It's happened before. If I see something I like, I'll tell you. If I see something I don't like, I'm going to tell you. That's basically how our show goes. We're not saying it to be mean. We're not saying it to just go after a guy personally. It's not personal. It's about the entirety of the performance we are seeing on the field, the production on the field. So that's it. That's all. Never one time have we gone on this show and just completely attacked Brett Baty personally. Like some fans like to do in Instagram DMs for Francisco Lindor when he plays like shit. Have we once said anything about his family or said anything about... No. We never will. Because again, this is just what we are seeing. And if it sounds a little bit over-exaggerated, I don't know what to tell you. We're show guys. We're podcasters. We got to keep people entertained. So if we're just talking about one monotone level, I mean, that would not be very entertaining. So again, we're not here to talk about him as a person. And yes, I am sure this is deep inside eating him up because he's playing like garbage. He's not playing well. But again, at some point, not everyone can be a winner. Not everyone.
Yeah, I'm just going to add final thing on this. Yesterday, they had the post-game interviews, and they had Brett Baty as one of them. Yeah. And Gelbs is just like, well, what do you mean you're in between? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're really, like, that's the thing, too, is like between the booing, the interviewers asking him questions, and just kind of pressing on, like, why are you bad at baseball? Tell us why you suck. Like, it's not helping. You know what I mean? Like, it's a young player. Like, it's just not doing us any favors. So I just feel like if you're the Mets, why are you making him available for media? Like, come on now. You're not helping. Yeah.
It's just, it's so damaged beyond repair as to how I see it. And maybe there's some people that still believe in him and maybe he does something else with another organization. But as of right now, he's still a Met. So again, this is not, and listen, we know the reality of the situation here. Okay. We know how it is in New York. This is a city that very instantly will chew you up and spit you out as soon as you have one shortcoming. We have seen young players develop well and handle it well. We've seen some not. And so far, we have not seen Brett Baty handle it fairly well. And he has not been able to perform. To be honest, to me, it's just like from a lot of the stuff, like from year after year after year, we're still seeing the same issues. I just don't see this being fixed. I just don't. Like maybe he has one game or so. Does he build on it? Who knows? I don't see it happen. Like I just don't. And there were some signs even from spring training when he wasn't playing, when he was playing fantastic, that I'm like, okay, like I don't know if this translates. I still don't know if this translates. I still don't know. Does this swing? Does these types of competitive pitch it? Like there's a lot of specific things that I saw from Brett Baty in spring that I'm like, okay, well, okay, this is good, but are we going to see it in the major league level? And we haven't. Exactly. And MAZ, it's saying, like, listen, yes, but again, there is 26 players in there. They don't talk to all 26 of them.
He's not a star player. Like, if it was Lindor or Soto,
Lindor
fine.
faces
You're supposed to be a leader, but this is like a young developing player on the fringe. You don't need to interview him. You really don't.
Yeah.
It's not important.
And obviously, for him to clear his head or whatever, you know, it's better that he's not. And maybe this day helps him, and going to a minor league park, because that's all really he's seemed to hit at for his entire professional career, is minor league parks. Maybe it is.
And
maybe this is
pitchers in spring training.
Yeah, and minor league pitchers in spring training. So we'll see. And this is against a athletics team whose pitching has not been great. So again, when it comes to Brett Baty here, you know, you can call it weak as much as you want, but guess what? Brett Baty's been weak. It's the reality of the situation. Sometimes you got to slow things down. Again, I'm just saying it's like, you know, hanging him out to dry like that. Second base, a position he's not playing. Major league, a level he's not succeeded at. I don't know. I just don't see it. I really don't. I haven't seen it for years. And I know I get so much shit for it. And people, but I just, if you want me to lie, like I can't just sit here and lie. It's just, I don't know what to say. From what we have seen, do I want him to do well? Absolutely. And most of my jokes about him will continue to be sarcasm and continue to just be my humor. That's just how I am. What can I tell you? It's how I deal with things. It's how I cope. But again, I want to see him succeed, but we're not seeing it. We're not. But whatever. Yes. Exactly.
Do you think booing him's a good idea too, Easy? How about that one? Is that also a great idea? I mean, we have other stuff to move on too. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where I'm like, how long are we going to do it until we can't do it anymore, until this thing just gets like completely blown out of proportion? Again, we're just doing it based off of what we're seeing. Not from us. Because to be honest, after how he has played, we should have an explanation. We should hear stuff. Especially after all that shit he was talking last year about swinging.
And then when people do the standing ovations for Turner, and then when they finally did it for Lindor, and all of a sudden you saw results happen, New Yorkers will do it. I'm not disagreeing. I know where we are. I've lived here my whole life. I know how New York works. I'm just saying that they're not helping the situation. That's all I'm saying.
No, they're not.
It's literally just the reality of it.
We're not saying they're wrong for expressing their frustration, because we have frustration. We're showing it right now.
Yeah.
But again, it's not something that I will say, and it's not something that I would do. Okay? That's just me. I would not boo my own player. Again, I would just be like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
That stinks. Whatever. Again, personally, I don't know what is the deal right now. I feel like with how New York is, it's just damage beyond repair now. I just don't see this getting better. Maybe he just needs to play on the road. Maybe he's just a road player. I don't know. But it's just, I don't know how many excuses we can continue to make for him when we realize that, like, baseball's a business. And if you're failing at the business, if you're not contributing, somebody else will take your spot. So at some point, they're going to have to cut the cord on this.
Here, how about this? There is research that shows that cheering is better than booing for player performance. There's your number for it. I don't care where we are. I'm just giving you science. How about that one?
Yeah. Well, again, that's the mental part of the game. I mean, it is. It's the mental. And again, we are not saying that, fans purchase tickets. They can do whatever the hell they want. They can do whatever the hell they want. And, you know, there's consequences for everything. So if you do something illegal, there's going to be consequences. If you want to boo, fine, boo. Do whatever the hell you want. Not something I would prefer to do. I would not prefer to do that. And that's coming from me, who has not been someone. That's coming from me, who is not someone who has been in the corner of Brett Baty and saying that I think he's great. Again, we're just saying it's not helping. That's it. That's it. It's just adding flames to the fire. It's not the problem. The fans are not the reason why Brett Baty's not playing well. We're saying just the full-on atmosphere of New York. It is a rough atmosphere to be in for a young player. We know. We just know that. That's just a fact. It has nothing to do with if it's soft or not. Anyways, speaking of soft, my hat, very comfortable. Anyways, speaking of other things, because I feel like we've gone complete overtime here at this point regarding Brett Baty. Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you for the injury report. Of course, we've got plenty of guys who are, you know, on the cusp of coming back. The floor is yours.
Alrighty, so starting off with one of my favorites, Jeff McNeil. Mets second baseman will travel to Florida to take live ABs before returning to game action. The Mets are hopeful McNeil can begin a rehab assignment for low A Port St. Lucie later this week. The 33-year-old infielder began the 2025 season on the injury list due to a mild oblique injury he suffered in the middle of spring training. The hope for the former batting champ is that with a hug and some nice love in his food, he will be able to get back sooner rather than later. Francisco Alvarez, my other guy, began a rehab assignment for low A Port St. Lucie on Wednesday night and caught 5 innings behind the plate. The 23-year-old is required to play back-to-back 9-inning games before activated off the injured list. Alvarez continues to recover from the surgery that he underwent in mid-March to repair a fractured hamate bow in his catching hand. If that doesn't work, I will just give him mine because we have to love our players and not boo them. Luis Torrens, Mets catcher, underwent an MRI on Tuesday afternoon, and the test came back negative. The Mets' 28-year-old interim starting catcher was removed from Saturday's starting lineup due to a right forearm contusion. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza stated that they expect Torrens to be ready sooner rather than later, but still remembers a day-to-day situation. Maybe some well wishes and some get better soon cards will get Torrens back.
I heard that a kiss on the cheek works.
That's pretty effective too. Yeah,
that one's pretty effective
as well. Yeah,
that's something that I think can also work.
They should add to Savant. I feel like that'd be a good metric.
To be honest,
like, cheered versus booed, like what percentile, how loud do they get, like with the decibels? It'd be a good stat to add.
Yeah, it would be something. You know, and they also should have something. They also have something about that detects sarcasm. You know, they should have that. That's just a different thing. Anyways. As for some other things going on with this organization, we did get the day of our last episode. David Stearns had a press conference and gave some comments regarding some stuff going on with the organization, obviously with a strong start that we have seen, some of the usual stuff that we can take into any other way in conversation. But before we do get into that, I do want to remind everyone to hit the like button and subscribe. Turn on those post notifications to not miss episodes of our show that happen following every single series of games in the regular season. And speaking of the regular season, let's get into what we saw from the boss man who spoke the other day. Plenty of quotes that we are seeing. He talked about Brett Baty, like we have said earlier, which we had quite a topic on. He said that for both of these guys, if one of them does find their way back to the minors at when we get fully healthy, they are going to have other opportunities. We know that they will find their way back to the big leagues and they will get another shot. But I'd love to see one or both of them perform at the high level before we make any decisions. Mark Vientos as well on his struggles to start the year, obviously having a great year last year, saying he will snap out of this. Clearly, he isn't performing at the level we saw him last year, and he's not performing at the level that he wants, but the talent is still there. He's still a really good hitter. He's got a ton of power. We probably have to get him back to swinging at some more strikes, and I think he will. We also did get some other news about some prospects in the lower levels. Kevin Parada, former first-round pick a few years ago, who has really struggled in his minor league career. David Stearns went on to say that Kevin's had some ups and downs since being drafted, but we still believe in the player. He worked really hard over the offseason and came into camp in really good shape. We still like the player, and we're going forward to see how this year goes. Pete Alonso, who has been one of the biggest bright spots on this team so far this year in the first 12 games. David Stearns, of course, saying that we've seen over the years that when Pete gets going, he can carry a team. It's been fun to see some enormous home runs. I think he's enjoyed it. Hopefully it allows him to take a little bit of a deep breath, and he's earned it. He loves playing here. Our fans love watching him. He's been a huge part of our wins so far this season. That is so weird to hear him say that, because I thought that he just completely hated him, right? That's crazy. Anyways, we also heard some stuff about Matt Allen, who just made his return for Low A Port St. Lucie a few days ago. He's saying that even given everything that Matt has gone through, every time he takes the ball, we are happy. He threw the other night. Let's get to the next one. And then after that, let's get to the next one, and we'll go from there. What I will say is that what he's doing right now is very impressive. He's demonstrating why he was so sought after in the draft, and why he has kept pushing so hard for the last 5 years to get back to this point. Obviously, Matt Allen undergoing multiple surgeries in the last 5 years, 2 Tommy John surgeries, a nerve correction, an internal brace. I mean, he has just gone through the woodworks, obviously, on his arm, on that right arm that we are relying on as him as a prospect. And it's actually crazy to think that this guy is only 23 years old. It's just nuts. Obviously, him being drafted as high as he was, the high slot money that he got, which was the most at the time. It was broken the next draft. But from some of these comments that we saw from David Stearns, obviously there's not really big things to take away from it. But I do think, in terms of the younger players, we are starting to see some shape up within, how they're going to go around accolading some of these guys to this roster. Frank, is there any real takeaways that you have from some of these quotes? Because again, it's very subtle, of course. It's very early in the year. But I think that, the way that David Stearns presents himself, he's very direct, and a lot of the stuff that he says, it's sincere and very honest. So you definitely can take that away from that. But any, things that go forward with any of these quotes, it's early, but I think we saw, the honesty that we always see from David Stearns.
Yeah, I feel like with Pete, if he's having this kind of season, I would hope that the little thing we had last offseason with how long it took for him to sign and trying to get the right value, I'm hoping it won't take as long, because it's he's worth it. Because that was the thing that I feel like us and probably the Mets were a little apprehensive about, is that we're like, is he still that guy? I mean, he's been on a little bit of a decline. He was really struggling with runs in scoring position in the big spots. But you know what? If he's playing this well, then I feel like the Mets might be a little more aggressive. I feel like the Mets have this approach of if you're worth it, we'll pay for it. That's kind of how they've handled business.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense to me. I like that. Yeah, I feel like you said with Vientos, that seems to be the key. Swing at strikes, good things will happen with the natural power he has. So, and
it's starting to show, I think, already.
He's getting there. He's getting there. So I really hope that he gets his first home run in the Athletic Series. That's kind of like my big thing with that. I feel like that hopefully would get him going.
His first major league home run was in Oakland. So
there you go.
Parallels.
We do like storytelling, so that would be
Yeah.
very nice. But the other guys, like it's been a struggle for Manon with the health. It's been a struggle for Parada just with performance. So as we know, like the Mets they give guys a shot. Even though Allen and Parada and Baty, these guys weren't brought in by David Stearns, he's still giving them a chance to show what they could do. And if they are quality players, then you know what, they'll play. Like it's pretty simple. So we'll see kind of how everything plays out. And it wouldn't totally surprise me at all because it happens every time. But if they do eventually send out Brett Baty and he starts playing amazing in AAA again, it's just like, are we really gonna like keep doing this again? Where it's like, oh, he figured it out now. He made another adjustment. Now he's ready. I just don't know. Like we've just seen it happen so many times with the call up and send down. It feels like it just kind of is what it is with him at this point because, like we said, the sample size continues to increase. So that excuse is just not really relevant anymore. So it just, like we said, we feel like we kind of know what he is, at least as a Met. Could he go somewhere else? Maybe St. Louis, since that's a really nice place.
They're very nice
fans
there.
are really nice to you. Maybe he figures it out.
I hear they
there.
give you a hug, a kiss on a cheek, and they also give you some chocolate as well. It's very nice there.
I mean, if that doesn't turn your career around, I don't know what would. But seriously, maybe he goes to an organization, maybe they make actual adjustments, like with a good hitting coach, and then he turns out to show some of what he was capable of as a prospect. Because the frustration is like there was talent, just haven't seen the consistency or any talent this season, to be honest with you. But all in all, like he's not gonna give us too much. But everything he said, like it makes sense. I mean, nothing crazy. Like it's all like, you know what? We hope our guys play better, stay healthy, and get paid well. Like it was all like very positive stuff.
Yeah, obviously, we can always take away from some of these comments. There's a lot of things that go on with closed doors. We'll see what decision they do make because Jeff McNeil's eventually going to come back. We know that he will, and he's going to be the starting second baseman. Do they go with having an extra left-handed bat on the bench, which I don't think is really going to be good for the sake of Baty, or do they go with the platoon of McNeil and Acuna? Who knows? I'm not sure. We all know who I would send down. I think everybody would send down Baty for, activating Jeff McNeil, but we're not there yet. So we'll see what chances they do end up getting because we also do have other infielders in this minor league system who maybe they start off hot in the higher levels. Guys like Jet Williams, maybe Ronnie Mauricio starts going. Like we'll see how they accolade this. And it's going to be very interesting how this infield is kind of configured because there are some positions that guys will look out of position. I have my opinions on it, but we'll see. Again, we already did plenty of time talking about Baty, so it's whatever. DMAC coming in here with $2. Thank you so much. Thank you for the donation. That will go straight to Baty. We are going to be very super nice to him. And it's also going to come with a big smooch. Anyways. Yeah, so as for what we saw from David Stearns, pretty much what we expected from, very early in the season. I know that the Pete Alonso talk is kind of elevated these last few days, obviously with him playing as well as he is, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting his Who's contract extension, that now, with him as not an option down the line, and Mets fans are kind of like, okay, well, now it makes sense. We gotta figure something out here with Pete. For me right now, let's calm down right now. I think the offseason was so hectic in regards to Pete Alonso that I feel like we just need a break in regards to what his future is with the team. Let's just let him play. I'm not saying that I don't want him back. I'm not saying that I hate him. Okay. For those of you who were there for that process of his free agency and people were getting upset with us, I'm not saying it's just slow it down. It has been 12 games. All right, I understand, when Mets fans see one good thing in a small sample, they start planning the celebrity endorsements for these people. But it's just like, let's just slow this down. We have to piece together 162 games first, and then we can talk about Pete Alonso's future in regards to that. Because, again, there are other pieces of this roster that we don't know. Maybe there's going to be guys on this roster that we don't even know yet, because last year there was plenty of guys that came in mid-season compared to the opening day roster. So we'll see how that gets configured. Even Steve Cohen said, he's like, when we get to it, we get to it. I'd love to keep him around, but we'll have to see. And that's the best way to look at it right now, because again, yes, he's playing fantastic right now, but that's 12 games. And I just want to continue. I just want to see the team win first. Okay. And I'm also just tired of the talks about Pete Alonso's future, because I think we've had those talks for, I don't know, about 3 years in combined. Like, I just play some baseball. That's it. That's all I ask. Frank, is there anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to Stearns, if he could just find hitters and the organization could develop hitters like the way they do pitchers, we would be like an amazing team. Like if we can get our Max Kranick of the world from a hitting side, like just a guy out of nowhere who was in the minors a couple years ago and just turns out to be amazing, that would be great. If we could turn players who are really bad into good players like Griffin Canning, but on the hitting side, that would be awesome. Yeah. So Stearns, and again, Stearns was known for that in Milwaukee with the pitching. Like we're starting to see it come to fruition more and more as he's continued to be in charge of the Mets. I just wish he could do it for the hitting too. You know what I mean? It's like that would be so great if we could just get like some surprise hitters. We haven't gotten that yet. We've gotten some pitchers, and it's been very helpful, especially this season. But we could just get the hitting down. Oh, it'd be wonderful.
Game for War saying, any update on Mauricio? Not recently, but it looks like he is going to play in Port St. Lucie when he is ready. I'm sure that we're going to get the update for that. I think that at the pace we're going, at least we're after the All-Star break. Maybe that's like the lowest that you see it.
And then, like, you'll see Mauricio on the field, but you won't see him at his fullest potential until next year.
No.
He still has to get his power back, his strength back up. So, like, you'll see him on the field, hopefully, if there's no setbacks. But as far as, like, him playing what he's capable of, you're not going to see it this year, I don't think.
It's going to be slow. And listen, he's still young as compared to some of the guys that are not young. And, we've been waiting to see some stuff, but, it's just that's how it is with, the ACL surgery, especially with the big frame that he is. He's definitely a bigger target for injury, so they're definitely trying to take it slow. But we will see kind of how they manage that. But to wrap up this series of the Mets versus Marlins, let's do it the best way we know how, with everybody's favorite segment, studs and duds. One player that played well in this series, one player that did not. We have some specifics here throughout these 3 games. Definitely 3 different environments in 3 different games. So tough to recap here, but the type of baseball that I still want to put behind us and move on. Because it was a little stressful, this series. Let's just say that. Frank, I'll go to you with your stud for this series. What do you think?
I'm going to take Francisco Lindor. He's definitely looking a little better. He had a 3-hit game, hit his first home run. And what I really liked, too, was he got the first hit when they were being no-hit. I mean, that's not the first time we've seen him do that, but it's just like,
lead by example.
At least somebody showed a pulse. At least somebody is showing some fight. Alonso was able to get a hit later on. Of course, Soto hit into a double play. But so it's like you got your one hit and it's just immediately erased. So that was really frustrating. But overall, he had a very good series. And I'm hoping that, like, slowly but surely, he's getting out of it. And it's hopefully less of a big hill for him to climb to get to where he's capable of. And for me, it's like my one thing with Lindor, at least for the first half, I just want to see him be an all-star as a Met already. Like, I want to see him get some kind of...
Boy, would that be awesome.
Just like get some kind of something for being a good player. I mean, it just stinks that, I know I've said this before, but like MLB doesn't have like all NBA or all pro where like, but I know you have like Silver Slugger, but like something for the end of the year, because he would win plenty of those. It's just he can't
Don't they have all MLB now or something?
They do, but it's not really this. I feel like it's not as like well known. It's just not the same. But it's like for something like him, I wanted to see him get some other national recognition for how good he's been for the team. And it just hasn't happened yet because of these slow starts. But it feels like of his slow starts, this is one of the better ones. So this means he has a better chance at making it. And, of course, having Soto hit behind you helps. You get more pitches to hit. But I just think overall, he's doing all right.
Yeah, underlying way, from the underlying way, I will say compared to what we had last year during this time of the year. It looks great. Like he's like really, really close to getting back into it. And again, this is the type of ballpark we're going up that is a very get right for this offense. It'll be very, very nice to see. But as for my stud, I'm actually going to go with someone who I don't think anybody really was talking about that much in this series. But to be honest, after what I am seeing from the bottom part of this order, I really want to say that this Hayden Sanger kid is a breath of fresh air. I'm not going to lie. Not just because of how he's doing offensively and giving you somewhat of competitive bats, and he's not a world beater offensively whatsoever, but just the overall impact of when we get these extra base runners that the defense expends the inning to. This guy has a ridiculous arm. This guy is his prowess behind the plate that has been talked about internally by the Mets for years. I know that they like his defense. It's legit. It is legit behind the plate. I will tell you that. Stearns is not as great at blocking as Sanger is. We know that Alvarez has struggled a little bit with the blocking. From all defensive tools, this kid, I mean, he's saved our ass many times. He's hit okay for a 9-hole hitter, to be honest. He's hit all right. He's not great.
Foods guy. He's hit
for a Whole Foods guy. For a Whole Foods guy, that worries, that likes to think about his health. Pretty good. Let's just say that. Yeah.
His framing too. I mean, listen, Baseball Savant, 91st percentile for their framing, and then, like you said, the blocks, 96th percentile. So pop time, he's a little slow when he's getting up, but I mean, he gets rid of it pretty good though. So keeping the runs where they are though, very important, especially as we transition to duds. I'll get into that.
Yeah. I think, these types of things with the defense, especially with the new stolen base rules, it is so important. It is so important. Obviously with the pop time, I don't know, actually, to be honest, that's like really good pop time. It's just, I don't think he qualifies because he hasn't played that much.
Not enough
so
reps
it's probably,
okay. All right, that's fine.
Yeah. So it's pretty quick. Cause like, there's no way he can have, like that caught stealing as high as it is with that type of pop time. But again,
unless he had
I don't think that
cannon, he's letting them get a head start and then just whips it.
I mean, it's crazy to think. I mean, we didn't expect this guy to be on the opening day roster. He did make the opening day roster by default, of course, with Alvarez going down. And, for him to have more hits than multiple players in this lineup, it says a lot about the bottom part of the lineup. You know who I'm looking to? I think somebody said Sanger's a better hitter than Baty in the chat earlier on. He has been. Yeah, statistically. And then I'm pretty sure he's drawn
better than
2 walks too or whatever. He's been better than Acuna statistically.
Drawn 1 walk.
Yeah. And I mean, Siri, it really...
Taylor, like you said, the whole bottom half of the order.
And it really does make a difference. It really does make a difference for what we were seeing behind the plate from him, because last year they were running all over us. I mean, Omar Narvaez was horrendous. I mean, he was horrendous as a Met. I mean, overall horrendous as a Met. Even though, he's not the McCannon. Again, they were running all over us. Yeah, they were running all over us and, expanding the inning with the defense from last year. They weren't winning the games that they're winning right now with those situations. And I'm not saying that's the main reason as to why, because, again, the bullpen's been great. The pitching has been great. We know that Pete Alonso has driven in, 15 runs already through 11 games. But, again, when it comes to Hayden Sanger, this guy has held down the fort fairly well. And we all know of the impact that Francisco Alvarez has on this pitching staff. Hayden Sanger, he's done a fairly good job with it so far while we are waiting for our number one guy to come back. Speaking of that number one guy coming back, side note, obviously, because sidetrack here, you have, I think your guys, McNeil and Alvarez, are probably going to play together in PSL. So maybe you might have some high fives, maybe some more kisses on the cheek might happen.
I would be honored. I would love to.
You never know. Yeah, I guess that's the running gag of today's episode. Anyways, Duds. I think there's one very indisputable that we talked about for a good amount. Frank, if you want to take it from there.
I got a different one, actually, because we spent a whole segment, so I'm going to pick someone else. This is a guy that could use some hugs from Carson. Edwin Diaz.
Dear God. Yeah, I was going to go with him too.
That was rough. I mean, he couldn't finish the inning. 30 pitches. I say this a lot, but with Diaz, you kind of know right away what kind of day it's going to be. It's like if one of the first pitches goes to the backstop, or it's like a leadoff walk or something like that, like, you know you're in for a rough day. And the catchers have actually saved him so far this season a couple of times. So he's been one of the guys that's benefited from like the throwing runners out, keeping everything in front of you. Because when this guy's thrown into the backstop, it's like you need quality catchers that can handle just all this craziness that's going on. But, you know, the other thing that really bothered me too was the pointing up while getting up the home runs. He's still doing it. He's still doing it. Like,
do I defend it? Do I defend it?
No, you don't. It's
sorry.
It's not the first time. Right. It's not the second time or the third time. Like, how many years has this been going on? He's been doing this. So, you know, between the walks, throwing it to the backstop, giving up home runs, pointing at the home runs. Now, they were talking about like, oh, it's not a save situation, no adrenaline. The Mets offense was terrible yesterday, but like, you didn't help us, dude. Like, you putting us further behind didn't do us any favors. It was
those are the
really
excuses you can't make. I'm sorry, you can't be making those.
I was just very frustrated because imagine the Mets actually did make a little bit of a comeback and it was tied or they were up and then he did that. Like, that would have made it even worse. It was like we kind of accepted the loss anyway, so that just made it like, okay, just totally forget it. But it wasn't great to see. You will see how it goes. I know with Diaz, he's like one of these hot and cold. He goes through roller coasters, especially the Marlins. We know last year, Marlins big save, Josh Bell. He blows it, home runs, pointing up, and then he's crying in the locker room. Like, it's part of the Diaz experience, but it just every time it's not fun. And listen, closers blow saves. Devin Williams was terrible yesterday, and he's not a great season, but it's just part of the whole Diaz time.
Yeah. Here's the thing. One thing I will say here is I knew with the start to the season that he has had so far that eventually it was going to collapse. I knew that there was going to be some kind of a collapse because not just necessarily just the fastball velocity or just the overall control of the strike zone. There has been just a slow pace that I've been seeing from Diaz where he's just not like, because usually he likes to work quick. It seems like he's overthinking a lot of things, and I get it. It's just not here yet, and I don't have concerns about the velocity because I know that from the way that, from certain mechanics, he's going to get there. And I'm sure you're going to see a velocity tick up if he pitches in Sacramento. I'm not saying it's a cold weather thing, but the cold weather in October, that's going to be a big thing as well. Diaz said he couldn't grip the ball, and again, I'm not here to make the excuses. One thing I will say,
if you can't do that, then shut it down. Like, if you can't do it now, you're not gonna be able to do it in October. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, come on.
Yeah, I again, that is one thing. But also just getting into the swing of things. But just to be a annoying little Diaz shit right now, that home run he pointed up to. The usual Diaz home run where it's not a barrel. So that probably should not have left. But it did leave because the fucking win was insane. So what I'm saying is Diaz still is completely perfect and he's never made a mistake. And what I'm saying is I don't have any worry right now, but like the journey to get back there is going to be rough. I have a really strong feeling because, again, right now, the slider looks a lot better than it was last year when he came back. So it looks like he's still there. The problem is the fastball is very erratic right now, and that's something that he needs to tame. Maybe as the weather gets warmer, maybe as he makes some adjustments somewhat. But yeah, I would put Diaz in that category too, mainly because we had I think the top of the order due up, down 2. And again, it's not like we were expecting it, but he took us completely out of the game. I mean, it was like, it was completely far-fetched. Like 2 runs, maybe a tall task of how this team is going as of right now, but it's more doable than 5-0. So again, was not a great outing. One of the worst outings we've seen. But I saw this thing as a house of cards for a little bit, because of some of the
Young
pitches he's throwing.
In a row gets the out in 4 pitches. You're like, that's concerning.
Yeah,
Like,
I think Danny Young knows his role, as compared to Diaz. But again, I'm not here to make excuses for the guy. I think what had happened was, I'm not here to make excuses. We know he's the $102 million reliever, the highest paid in the game. And that can't happen. So there's going to have to be adjustments made. But there are some things that I think fans are worried about that I'm not worried about. But it's a fragile situation. Let's just say that. It was a fragile situation. And nobody pointed up like Hansel Robles. So I don't think Robles was the 100% guy of that. And that's the main reason why he's my least favorite Met of all time. And also just the fact that his presence alone was just dreading. Anyways, speaking of moving forward, let's preview this next series, which will be against the Athletics. Not the Oakland Athletics, not the Sacramento Athletics, not the Las Vegas Athletics, not the Philadelphia Athletics, just the Athletics. Thank you, John Fisher, for this. Anyways, as for your pitching probables for this 3-game series on the road, going to Sacramento, which is a minor league ballpark. Game 1, Griffin Canning looking to build on a solid start to the season. Maybe he goes a little bit deeper into the game this time. He will go up against J.P. Sears, who is one of, I think, the pieces that the Yankees sent over to the A's for a guy who's on our team right now, Frankie Montas. So J.P. Sears, solid left-handed pitching, so we'll see what the platoons look like. Game 2 goes to David Peterson. Let's hope that he's not nauseous this time, and hope that he's okay. But it looks like he is going to make that next start. As of right now, we don't know who the starter is going to be for Game 2 for the A's, even though Mitch Spence is lined up as of right now on their roster and has made starts before. The Mets tattooed him last time in the other half of the offense in the game that I went to. That was 3 hours and 45 minutes, where Jose Quintana couldn't get the ball to play.
6 batters, yeah.
Yeah, it was not great. And Game 3 goes to Kodai Senga. That will be at 4 o'clock. Game 2 is at 4 o'clock. We only have one 10 o'clock game, and we also don't have a Drew Smith to blow it for us. So again, hopefully things are looking up for the West Coast here. And we will go up against our old pal, Luis Severino, pitching for the first time not in New York of his career. Because remember, he was a Yankee for quite a bit. And, he got that bag from the A's, and we're happy for him. And we wish him the best, but not when he's playing the Mets. So hopefully, a team that, was teammates of his. And even though we don't have any catchers right now who caught him that are healthy, because usually catchers who caught them before know what to expect. We've seen Yan Gomes hit very well against Max Scherzer before in the past, things like that. But anyways, going into this series, do not take this very lightly. This is an Oakland team that's got big hitters. They have guys.
Oakland, Carson. They're just
this is a Sacramento redacted team that can hit. They have hitters. JJ Bleday, young hitter. Lawrence Butler, young hitter. Brent Rooker, young hitter. We know that Jacob Wilson can be a pest. We know, Max Muncy, their top prospect, he hasn't really done well.
The other Max Muncy.
Yeah, the other Max Muncy. I believe they actually have the same birthday, the one from the Dodgers and from the...
Really?
Yeah, that's crazy,
wow.
isn't it?
That is really interesting. I got to look at that. That's very interesting.
Tyler Soderstrom is on a tear right
Beast.
now. One of the hottest hitters in all of baseball. That just shows you a first round pick that actually does pan out. But again, as for their pitching, it hasn't been great for them. They are giving up a lot of homers. So we are looking to the power bats here.
Yeah, and listen, it's the ballpark. You know, there's a little bit of
absolutely.
both. I mean, they don't have the greatest. Like I said, don't have the greatest.
They're also giving up a
world.
lot of homers on the road, though, too.
Yeah, so it's the combination of the greatest pitchers on the road, but it's like you might have a little bit of a shootout here, like a little bit of, like you said, low Coors Field like. I mean, like you said, Soderstrom 6 home runs this year, OPS 1,197, OPS plus 248. That's pretty great. Jacob Wilson hitting 396. You know, he's got 19 hits so far this season. I mean, absolutely crazy. And even Brent Rooker, he hasn't been great this season, but he's hit 4 home runs. Lawrence Butler hasn't even got it going yet, and like they're still putting up these kind of runs. Shea Langoliers, he's another one. Like
that's another one.
Entire lineup has been really, really good. Outside of like Urshela,
they got some hitters,
and Duhar, of course. So like outside of those guys, most of the guys have been performing really well. I'm most fascinated, obviously, by the Severino game. And one of the things I found very interesting is the way the Athletics have used him. They're working this guy very early in the season. For somebody who has quite an injury history outside of last season with the Mets, you look at his starts this season. In his
Severino,
first start, 99 pitches, 6 innings. Next start, 107 pitches, 6 innings. And then his most recent start against the Padres, 7 innings, 5 runs, 96 pitches. So they're really letting it go. And we'll see if it pays off them, because the Mets were very careful with Severino last year, and I liked that. But, you know, it's something that he's going to be out there. So, you know, get ready for it. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they approach that. But like you said, don't take it for granted. And I think for me, with how well a lot of these young hitters have been, I've actually really been looking forward to this series ever since the season started. Like, I've had this one circled for me because we've talked so much about like how good the pitching's been. Oh, it's been incredible. Max Kranick and Griffin Canning and all these other guys pitching really well. McGill's not going to pitch in this series, but I wanted to see, okay, well, how does it look when it's not the Marlins and it's not the Blue Jays? How does it look against a lineup that's actually performing really well in a really good hitter's ballpark? And it's not Citi Field in the cold. So I am just very curious to see like how this Mets pitching holds up. If it is as good as it's been so far, it was, you know, the best ERA in baseball at you know, for a little bit. So I want to see how it looks against this Athletics team.
Now, for those of you who need some context about Tyler Soderstrom, he was the 26th overall pick in the first round, who the Mets passed on in 2020, taking Pete Crow Armstrong, who's no longer here. So, again, thank you, Brody Van Wagenen, once again.
Soderstrom for Baez. That would have really sucked. They probably would have known in previous regime.
I don't know.
They probably would.
There's some other guys here that were taken behind here. Oh, geez. Okay, that is a fountain of sadness. I don't even want to go down. Anyways, but again, this is going to be warmer climate, so we're expecting the offense to do well, and they're going to have to attack early because we know who's going to be coming in the ninth. That man, Mason Miller, is a monster. Okay, I don't think, you know, the A's don't get talked about as much. But this is one of the best relievers in all of baseball. This guy with ease can touch 102. And I think the Mets faced him
even in like the snow, sleet. He still does.
Yeah. They were in Colorado, and he was sitting 101.
103. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, he was sitting 101, top 103. The man's a freak. I mean, that's crazy. You know, do I miss when our closer used to get to those heights? Yes, I do. But hey,
he did it for.
It is what it is.
The country.
It was that damn WBC. Am I right, Frank? That damn WBC.
Yeah,
anyways,
for us.
Going into this series, some of the keys that I would say. Mark Vientos, this is your chance to get on a roll here. Baty, this is your last, because this is a minor league stadium for you. This is something that you have succeeded in. I don't know if he's familiar with this stadium. And then also, I'd also like to see. I also would like to see the Mets kind of play the matchups, or fray away from the matchups a little bit more just because of the lefty. Because I know that we've talked about like, you know, Winker getting it. There was a reliever that he got a hit off of.
Little.
Like he got
so
the big
he got
hit off
the
of.
big triple off of Little,
Yeah.
and then they pinch hit from the next day with Marte.
Yeah. So like again, like these types of matchups. Yeah, it's time to completely maximize the offense here because this is a hitter's park. This is a pitching staff that has not done well and has definitely given up a decent amount of homers. And then also, you know, you just got to play whoever has been hitting the best. And we know that does not include Brett Baty. We know that does not include, you know, guys like, you know, Jose Siri. He has not been hitting well. Tyrone Taylor got going a little bit in this series, little bit. For bottom part of the order. He actually had a few competitive ABs in this series, but yeah, but the bottom part of that order, they got it. You got to get something. You got to get something from that bottom part of the order. And if you do, you're going to have plenty of shots to do damage from the top. I mean, we know that it is, but you know, I think at some point, you know, it'll eventually all even out, and maybe we'll get to see it on full display in Oakland, in Sacramento. Man, even I'm having a tough time with it. In Sacramento, Oakland, Las Vegas, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and we're gonna see, you know, what this team is made of to go on the road here overall, and I really want to see. You know, a little bit more of efficient offense from what we have seen because it's been a little sloppy. Because again, you don't get that many chances in that warm weather because you're going to be going to Minnesota right afterwards. So again, that's a cold. That you want to talk about cold climates? That's a cold climate right there. And I don't think you know, going back to Citi Field to play St. Louis right afterwards for 4 games. I don't think it's going to be any warmer and any difference maker. Eventually it will get warmer, but right now they're just going to have to keep snuffing out these wins. But other than that, I think we'll wrap it up here. One final thing that I do want to say, because it was very noticeable in the baseball community these last past 48 hours, Octavio Dotel, just an awful tragedy. I mean, from hearing from what happened, I mean, that's like a new fear unlocked when you think about it, of like a roof collapsing. Like that is just awful. And you know, prayers to all the families of the victims as well. And Octavio Dotel, for those of you who don't know who Octavio Dotel is, he originally came up with the Mets. He was originally a Mets prospect, kind of flopped in '99, and he played for like the most teams, I'm pretty sure, ever. He's an immaculate grid legend for those of you who play that game. But that is, I mean, that is
with the Yankees, he was solid.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Shame.
That is devastating. That really is. So you know, best wishes to his family and everything. That's nuts. There was a crazy story that came out. But other than that, Frank, I will swing it over to you. Going into this athletic series in Sacramento, hitting, maybe some hitting. That'd be cool. Be awesome.
Not a bad idea. I mean, I think they could use some bats. Like I said, this is really the opportunity because, like I said, going to Minnesota, then home for St. Louis, that's going to be tough. So I feel like we said, the mental aspect, it's a thing. Contrary to what some people might think, if you feel like like I said, because you're seeing Vientos have that frustration, like you could literally watch it happen on the screen. You see it happening. He's really frustrated. If he starts to see some hits fall, maybe something fly out of the park, he'll start to feel a little better and settle down. Because we've seen with Alonso, a lot of it is mental with these guys. Because the Mets, as critical as we are on them, as hard as we're on them, they do have players with some talent. So a lot of times it's just a matter of maximize that talent, getting it to actually show on the field. And a lot of times what could hinder that is the mental part of it. If you don't have confidence, if you don't have rhythm, then you're not going to be able to show what you're capable of. So you hope that, like we said, Vientos and Baty, those are the guys I'm looking at. I like to see Juan Soto like extra base hit really get it going, not popping up. And then like one last note for Lindor, this is the second time this season the Mets have faced a starting pitcher who's left-handed since opening day of Framber Valdez. So we've talked about it, but the other teams have also been, it seems like, very conscious of saving their lefties for Nimmo, for Winker. So even like in the bullpen, Lindor has not really faced lefties. So I am very curious to see how his right-handed at-bats look tomorrow, because he hasn't really gotten many of them. And we know that, generally speaking, better average here from the right side. So I want to see how that goes, if that helps him continue this climb back to where he's supposed to be as far as his statistics.
It'll definitely be a test for him against lefties, because again, we haven't seen that many plate appearances, like you said. He has been very, very balanced in production, I'd say, since he's become a Met as a switch hitter. But again, the lefty population has definitely gone down, so it's a little bit smaller of a sample size. D-Max saying in the chat, saying the stadium is 407 straightaway center. For what I'm seeing, from what I just looked up, just straightaway center, they're saying 403. So I don't know if they change it or something. Just a 4-foot adjustment for major league talent. I don't know. But 330 down the left field line, 325 down the right field line. So, the factors are there. They are there. And if the ball is carrying like Coors Field, it's there for you. It's there for you. And it's not cold. So it's not going to hurt to be jammed. Let's just say that. So, if you need some torpedo bats in that way, maybe that's the option. But this is definitely a offensive get right for this series, to get some of those reps before they go right back to a cold climate in Minnesota. But other than that, I think we're going to wrap it up here. For those of you in here, or for those of you who came in for a little bit, for those of you who stayed for the entire show, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel and turn on post notifications to not miss when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. Follow all of us individually, including our third Mike, Andrew, who could not be here today. And as well as for on TikTok, following every single regular season game. Frank does his post-game reactions, the raw reactions. So maybe you get some emotion, some hard emotion if there's a rough loss, or maybe you get some excitement after a huge win. You never know what you could see on our TikTok and also on our X as well. But other than that, off to Sacramento we go for a team that does not want to be identified for Sacramento. And we will be playing, like I said, the Kansas City, Philadelphia, Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas A's. It really rolls off your tongue when you think about it. Anyways, final thoughts, of course. Let's go Mets. And we will see you guys next time.